just took the picture. Lloyd, I'm taking the picture.
Sorry.
Okay.
Okay, now we got picture time done. All right, so I just want to welcome everybody here tonight and let you know you are brought here by Wyoming Citizens for Liberty. So that's kind of just a local grassroots group of people who are passionate about citizen engagement. So we're thrilled to have you guys here on a Tuesday evening that, you know, it's a beautiful summer day outside finally, and so it takes a special kind of person to pull yourself away from other things, family activities and games of kids or grandkids to come do your civic duty and vet candidates. So thank you very much for coming tonight. We just really want to connect candidates with citizens. This is just going to get the ball rolling. We can't learn everything about everybody in a sitting like this, but hopefully you can start to glean some things and then want to learn more about this, about these candidates individually. So let me just really quickly go through the candidates for the offices that the seats that we have here. We don't have everyone for these seats. So first off, we have Senate District 25. So we have Lisa Wilson, who's running for that, and also Cale Case. He couldn't be here, he's in Washington, D.C. Turn the page. Then we have Pepper Ottman, who is House District 34. So we went from Senate District, we just have one Senate District up this election. Then the rest are House. So Pepper Ottman is House District 34. So thank you, Pepper. And at this, she does not have an opponent. So we have House District 54. We have Jeff Martin and Lloyd Larson. And House District 55, we have Carl Manning, who's called to run for that, and we didn't get any response from him. So, and he has no opponent either. And last but not least, we have House District 28, which is mostly Thermopolis and that way, but Shoshone is included in House District 28, House District 28. And we have Carlin Jones. There are 4 people running for that seat. We have Alan Hogg. We received no response from Alan Hogg or Roland Loon. I don't know how to say his last name. Carlin jumped at the chance. He was right here, and Marshall Keller responded that he has town council meeting tonight, so he wasn't going to be able to make it. But we thank you guys for all being here. It's not an easy thing to come and serve and do these things and put yourself out in front of people. So hopefully this goes well and we can learn a few things. I will turn the mic over to our moderator for the evening, which is John Burberry, and then he will go through our rules of engagement for the night.
Thank you, Sarah, and welcome everyone. The rules are as follows. Each candidate will receive 1 minute to introduce themselves, and then we will begin the questions. You will have 1 minute to answer each question, and then we'll rotate through which candidate answers first. And then we'll have some questions in the lightning round, which will require a 10-second answer. After we've answered all the questions, each candidate will get a 1 minute closing statement to make. And our timer up front will show you the yellow card when you have 20 seconds left in your minute response, and the red card means stop. If you don't stop, you risk getting hit with the fly swatter. For those of you in the back, there's a fly swatter up here, the red and yellow cards. There it is, right there. Yes. All right, so we'll begin with one of our incumbents, Lloyd Larson, for introductions. So 1 minute.
That's 30 seconds. Thank you for putting on this forum. It's really important for people to have the opportunity to hear what the candidates have to say. My name's Lloyd Larson. I've lived in Lander since 1980. I've served in the legislature for the past 14 years, and look forward to being part of this tonight. Becky and I, my wife is in the audience. We have 6 children, 23 grandchildren, and feel that we are very blessed.
Greetings, everybody. My name is Pepper Ottman. I live just west of the airport. I have been in the legislature since 2020. I have House District 34, which scans the landscape from Du Bois to Jeffrey City. I was the chairman of the Fremont County Republican Party for 2 terms and am currently a precinct person as well. I believe in citizen involvement, and I had hoped to have an education thing tonight. I did not know that this was going to be an actual forum, so surprise for me. And thank you for all being here. It's so wonderful to see you, and thanks for taking your time.
Hello everyone, my name is Carlin Jones. I'm a 4th generation rancher out of Ottawa, Wyoming, and I'm running for House District 28. I'm running because I've seen the government make the decision that they are the ultimate authority. I'm here to remind the government that the people are the authority. If you want someone that will allow the ever-growing bureaucracy to spend our children into indentured servitude, then by all means, vote for one of the other candidates. That's not me. If you want someone who has proven his worth in battle against government overreach, here I am. If you want someone who has a vested interest in the future of our children of this great state, here I am. If you want someone who is willing and able to protect us from those who would chip away at our rights piece by piece, here I am. We need the good people of House District 28 to get out and vote on August 18th. We need you to tell everyone that you know that there's a fighter in House District 28, a fighter that's willing to protect our children's rights, freedoms in the future. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Lisa Wilson, and I chose to live in Wyoming because I love the culture, I love the values, honesty, integrity, individual responsibility and rights, and even community. But I found over the last few years that there are people who are actively trying to change Wyoming. And so I am running for Senate District 25 because I believe that together we can restore Wyoming values and make Wyoming, Wyoming again.
My name is Jeff Martin, and I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. I'm running for House District 54. I've lived in Lander since 1989. I'm a small business owner. For the past several years, I've been watching our state decline. And I can't go anywhere, whether it's a store, the bank, on the trails, horseback riding, and people aren't having the conversation. They're upset at the way things are going with our high taxes, high energy costs. And if you're looking for somebody that's going to actually take your voice, because your voices aren't being heard, my voice isn't being heard. If you want somebody that will take your voice to Cheyenne and change things and work with us, with the others that will work to change things and make Wyoming better, vote for Jeff Martin, House District 54.
All right, question number 1, and we'll start with Jeff Martin. It's a 2-part question. What do you believe the role of government should be, and do you think that the state currently meets that role?
It's government's job to protect the people in the state. The government's not doing that in the state of Wyoming right now. They're fast tracking they're fast tracking the data centers. They're not listening to the people. The people in the state have a voice, and it's just not being heard. It's not their job to overtax the people in the state of Wyoming, which they are overtaxing the people in Wyoming. And at last, if you can't do your job, that's your job. And if you have to keep going to the people for more taxes, that seems to be the answer. Then maybe you're not doing your job, and new people need to step in and take care of that for you. That's why, I align myself with Brent being for governor. If you want to know who I am, his policies are exactly who I am. And I think we need a guy like that to,
Want me to repeat the question?
Sure.
What do you believe the role of the government should be? And do you think that the state currently meets that role?
The role of government is to represent the interests of its citizens and to protect them, to provide things like infrastructure, like roads and clean water, things like that. Our state is not meeting that goal very well. They're not doing their role, I would say, as well as they could, and they're in fact overstepping their role and sending our tax dollars to a lot of NGOs for special interest groups. And I think that we need to put an end to that. We need our tax money to go for the things that the government is supposed to do, and police force and fire, ambulance, things like that. It shouldn't be going to these special interest groups. And so I think that we need to do a forensic audit. We'll get to that.
I believe the proper role of government is simple and limited. It's there to provide a level playing field. It's there to provide law and order. It's there to protect the citizens and allow us to do our business. The rest should be left up to the families, to the churches, and to the businesses in our state. I think that the government has not been living up to its duties. I think it's been overreaching. And we see that affect business. We see that affect everyday costs of goods. That overregulation burdens producers, and it makes it difficult for us to be able to do our jobs, which is to produce value here in this great country, in this great state.
Thank you.
Okay, the proper role of government. In 2020, when I went in, it was right in the throng of COVID. My platform was life, liberty, and private property, and I still believe that. I have gone on to support those things. Every year is a learning curve, and there's some people that think that, I'm sorry about this. What we have done lately is we have looked at the proper role of government. We have lowered the property taxes by 25%. We have redone a lot of things. What we're looking at is regulatory change as well. And I'm sorry, I was looking at one of the constituents here and got sidetracked. The thing that we need to do is to continue in the work. President Trump has done a good job, and he's looking at regulatory change, and we need to continue that here in the state.
So I think the role of government really falls into two places, and I would say for social services, I think the role of government is to be a safety net. When those individuals that have mental health issues or developmental disabilities, we should provide help for them if there's no other help available. For the rest of it, we need to provide infrastructure and safety concerns and address the policies of the government, which is really to protect the citizens and to protect their rights. We need to continue to make Wyoming the lowest. We are the second lowest tax burden state of the 50th states, and we need to continue to do that.
All right, question number 2, and we'll start with Lisa Wilson for this question. What do you consider to be the top two important priorities for Wyoming and why?
I believe it's not one. I believe the number one priority is restoring the sanctity of life. If we don't protect the most innocent among us, we certainly can't expect God to protect us and to prosper us. We see violence just going rampant. And why is that surprising? If the life of an innocent baby is not important, then why would the life of somebody that just made you angry be important? I could go on for that for a long time. I think that one of the other most important things is parental rights. We have to restore parental rights. Parents should have the right to direct their children's education,
Time.
their health care, and more.
Can you ask the question again?
What do you consider to be the top two important priorities for Wyoming and why?
Okay, well, since I only have a minute, I'm gonna focus in on one, and that is government overspending. Let's look at the national debt, 39 trillion. So you guys understand what that means. 1 million seconds ago was 32 days. 1 billion seconds was 32 years ago. 1 trillion seconds was 30,000 BC. Let that sink in. Think about our children paying that debt off. There's one thing I know about overspending and debt. It is another word for indentured servitude. We must reduce spending, reduce spending, reduce spending. And Wyoming can be a flagship for the rest of the country. Thank you.
As far as, yeah, John, would you read it again?
What do you consider to be the top two important priorities for Wyoming and why?
The top two. Sit on. Now is it on? Yes, it is. Okay, the top two priorities, I believe, is judicial reform. We have a big problem in the legislature. We have passed bills that go into litigation, and the next thing you know, the law that we have passed through the legislature are null and void. So I believe judicial reform is the first one. The second one I would like to look at is right now we have $30 billion in savings. When we look at property taxes and property tax reform, a lot of people are against that. They say, what about our local services? There's no reason why we are collecting so many taxes and also have that much money to put in savings. So it needs to be balanced. It needs to be balanced. Did we get $1.8 billion in interest? Yes, we did. But is that at the cost of the services?
Time.
The top two things that I think we need to address coming into this session is that we have somehow become a very non-business friendly state. And so when we talk about tax burden, we never want to have an income tax. We want to reduce these other taxes, but yet we're making it very, very difficult for businesses to relocate into Wyoming. The other thing that I would address is I don't understand the erosion on private property rights, and we need to get that firmly planted. But we pretty soon, well, let me say that we currently see that our neighbors can tell us what we can do on our property when we're complying with laws and all the regulatory requirements, and that's just run afoul to me, and I don't understand how that's come to play over the last 4 years.
Mr. Martin?
I think one of the most important things going into this year is we need some accountability. I believe that Wyoming needs a complete forensic audit across the board. I believe Wyoming is not exempt from the waste and fraud that's going on across this country. And we seriously need to get down to those books and those numbers, because, folks, I know what these guys are saying over here, but according to Cowboy State Daily article, we are number 7 for high taxes in the country. That's and the 25% reduction in taxes that we're talking about. That was initiated by BCR. BCR is the group that went out and put a people's initiative together. It's a group of people that can actually go out, draft their own bill, and put it to work. And you'll be able to vote on 50% off your residential property taxes. The second thing is our producers. Why aren't we doing something for our producers right now?
All right, next question, we'll start with Mr. Jones. Do you think it's possible to cut the cost of delivering services without cutting the services themselves?
This is a great question. There's a lot of debate on this and a lot of worry about losing essential services. But I'd like to introduce the analogy of a night watchman. The government hired the night watchman to stand guard over an outpost, protecting the local communities. A man doing real work. And as time went on, people got together. Let's get someone to file paperwork for him. Let's get a person to issue payroll. Let's get an HR department. We need somebody at this front desk. We need somebody to write rules, regulations, and policy for this man. Next thing you know, 10, 12, 15, 20 people in an air-conditioned office while one man is out watching the post. We're in a unique position where we can put in place automated payroll systems that are completely transparent. We can use filing tools to allow the night watchman to file his own documents. We're in a unique position where we can cut that spending, that waste, and cut out the middlemen. Thank you.
Candidates, if you want to be heard by the audience, please use your microphones. Thank you. I just got that from the boss, so.
I've been told that.
You don't want this to escalate, trust me.
Yep.
All right. Mrs. Otto, do you think it's possible to cut the cost of delivering services without cutting the services themselves?
Yes. What I'll say is, there does need to be an audit. We have $7 billion in the counties right now sitting there. And so, they've all been talking for the last couple of years, we need to have these reserves because things are gonna go away. We're not gonna have coal, we're not gonna have oil, we're not gonna have gas. Why not? Why not? We are one of the main producers in this country. And so we need to use it. We need to use our resources and we need to use them wisely. We also need to do the audits, as was mentioned here just a few minutes ago. There's a lot of double dipping. There's a lot of agencies and 501s and stuff. Some are very, very good. Some are working so diligently and so honestly, but there's others that need to be looked at and need to be reorganized. So services, I suggest to you that the counties be looked at, and I have heard.
The answer is yes, and we look for that all the time. And one good example is in the Department of Health, where you have people that can go into long-term care on Medicaid. And the cost for having somebody in long-term care that is enrolled that are qualified for Medicaid is about $6,000 a month. The State Department of Health applied for a waiver and allowed that, we call it the community choice waiver. It allows people to stay in their own home and get in-home services. The cost for those are $2,000 a month, so 1/3 the cost, and we look for those all the time. Now, if you come to health insurance and you see the cost for premiums of health insurance, what's driving that, and then we need to come back and look at the cost that the medical providers are charging. That is a difficult one, because if you reduce the cost, whatever you're paying in health insurance is somebody's income in the providers. So, thank you.
Can I ask the question one more time, please?
Yes. What do you think? Do you think it's possible to cut the cost of delivering services without cutting the services themselves?
Well, that's kind of, there's a lot going on there, but maybe we should, look at the administrative costs compared to where the costs are actually going. It seems to me that we had this fear thrown at us that we're gonna lose our services. Well, it seems to me like we have the money and maybe things need reallocated. Maybe we can reallocate those funds and put them to the right places. As far as the healthcare, 49% of administrative costs with healthcare. Same with schools, 49% administrative costs when it comes to our schools. These are all things, when I said the audit, everything needs looked at, from healthcare to education. You want to take our emergency services away when we're sitting on the funds? You can't reallocate that $40 billion in Cheyenne and put those funds to work for the people?
I guess we're all standing up, so. All right, can we reduce costs without cutting services? I believe so. And as Jeff just stated, there's a lot of administrative costs that are ridiculous. Sometimes if you look at what the big guys are making, it's 4 or 5 times the amount of what the actual workers are making. So I will parrot Jeff over here. We need to audit everybody. Let's just get down and dirty. Everybody needs audited, and a forensic audit. They say, oh, we do audits every year. No, we need a forensic audit on everything. We need to know exactly where everybody is going. And we need to get rid of the waste. And I'm sure there's a little fraud in there too that we could get rid of. So, yes, I think we can cut costs.
All right, next question is for Pepper Ottman. What bill would you most like to bring in the next session?
Boy, there's quite a few. What I'll say is I've had a strategic lawsuits against public participation SLAP bill. I've brought that for 2 different sessions, and what it is it's to go against fraudulent lawsuits. And we see that for individuals, we see that for corporations, we see that for companies, and it's getting way out of hand. Lawfare is rampant across our nation. So I ran that bill twice. The first time I ran it, it passed through the House, it passed all of the committee, and it went over to the Senate Judiciary, and they failed it. Second time, we revamped it to answer the questions from the Trial Lawyers Association and different ones, and the Senate Judiciary failed it again. So the Senate has picked it up as an interim topic, and I'm really, really glad, because they're the ones that can deal with the Trial Lawyers Association.
Time.
There's 2 bills that I've been working on at the request of industry over the last year that we are getting ready to do bill drafts on. One is on the experience modification rating in the workers' compensation division, where employers who have to pay workers' compensation when they do bids, the companies that they're bidding work for oftentimes use that EMR, that experience modification rating, as an indicator of their safety record. It's not designed to do that, and it then forces a number of our Wyoming companies to not be allowed to bid, and so we're going to correct that. Then the other one that I'm working on is the one call, the 811 statutes that our contractors, road contractors, anybody that's digging in the dirt in our municipalities find challenging to navigate, because the language of the statutes was very ambiguous. So we're working with everybody to clean that up and make that cleaner.
Yeah.
My first bill would be eliminate property tax and put the monies back into our economy. My second would be eliminate fuel tax right now to the producers, because producers are having a hard time right now. If we cut their fuel tax, that would help them immensely in their farming, ranching, and things that they're doing right now. So that would be the two things I focus on when I get to Cheyenne.
I am with Jeff on eliminating property tax. I think there's absolutely no reason that anybody should lose the home that they own because they can't pay a tax. Secondly, again, I believe that we need to address the sanctity of life. And Article 1, Section 38 of the Wyoming Constitution that requires that people, it says people have the right to health care, but in subsection C it says that the legislature has the right to put limitations on that health care in situations that would be beneficial for the citizens. And all of those unborn citizens, I'm sure, would think that would be very beneficial.
One thing that I've seen is I've seen bureaucratic agencies disregard statute and disregard policy, disregard constitutional protections in order to enforce their agenda of the day. We need real recourse for the citizens of Wyoming to be able to be covered and compensated for the injuries and for the damage that occurred by the bureaucracies that are willing to twist and manipulate statute, are willing to abuse the law instead of represent the people. That would be what I'd like to bring into Congress, is a mechanism for recourse to hold government agencies accountable when they choose to disregard the law, manipulate the law, or twist the law for their benefit. Thank you.
I did.
Okay, you went first.
I did.
So, like, Mr. Larson gets the next question. Everybody answered that question?
Correct.
Okay. What is your stance on the Supreme Court's decision that racial gerrymandering is unconstitutional? How do you think this will affect Fremont County?
That is a great question, and I think that is really something that the courts here are going to have to ultimately decide. I think that the county commissioners, and that really is up to them to decide how they're going to approach that. But I think that there will eventually be a lawsuit to challenge the structure of the districts in Fremont County Commission, and that'll have to be ruled on.
Jeff?
It seems like the gerrymandering, I've just really started reading about this stuff and how they want to move districts to, generally, it benefits Democrats. Let's just put it out there, Gerrymandering benefits the Democrats, and I think it needs to be stopped.
What is your stance on the Supreme Court's decision that racial gerrymandering is unconstitutional? How do you think this will affect Fremont County?
Well, I agree with the Supreme Court. It is unconstitutional. And here in Fremont County, it's exactly what has happened. And if we don't address it, there will be lawsuits because it is unconstitutional. So we need to get this handled as quickly as possible, or we're just going to be in court until we're forced to do it.
I would have to agree that the gerrymandering based solely upon the race of the people in the district is unconstitutional. It gives groups of people strongholds that misrepresent the voters in that area, and it doesn't allow an accurate representation of the voter base to be represented in their district or anywhere else that in government. Thanks.
Well, I think all these comments have been very, very good. What I'll say, as the representative of House District 34, you can see what figuring out the districts according to racial profiling is. Because each one of mine is the most insane looking district that a person has ever seen. And the reason being is because we had to make sure of the motor voter rules and things and the tribes, and also that a place where there might only be 4 voters We had to make sure that there was a bit more land in that space so that we couldn't tell how they voted. So it was a mess. So the quicker we figure that out and clean it up, the better.
Okay, Mr. Martin, do you agree with 80% of the Republican Party platform? Please explain which parts of the platform that you disagree with.
100% Republican Party platform. You know, I was asked, you know, are you gonna vote 80% for the party? So my answer to that is, are you leaving 20% on the table for backroom deals? I don't think it's right. People getting into the Republican Party were putting an R by their name, but then voting 20% for the party and 80% Democrat. There needs to be accountability, and there needs to be a way to get these people out. Either you're for the Republican Party platform or you're not. And that's all I've really got to say about that. I mean, it's bad. And that is one of the reasons I'm running. We need to get people that are going to represent the party as it stands.
That also is why I'm running, because we have Democrats in the Republican Party. So, how do I align with the Republican platform? I would say there was only one thing that I thought just a little tweak, and that was the platform about unions. And the only difference, I would have just gone farther. I don't have it memorized at the moment here, but it's basically just said that workers shouldn't be forced to join a union. And I do agree with that, but I also believe that they should have the right to join it. And that's really the only difference that I could say.
The Republican Party platform is based on timeless truths that we can all hold our head high and stand proud in supporting. Now, I haven't been involved in politics lately, and as I came back in, you heard me repeat this multiple times tonight. I came back in because my children are exposed to the danger of being subject to indentured servitude. The question became, where do I stand? Who do I stand with? Who do I go shoulder to shoulder with to be able to push back against those who would enslave my children to uncontrolled spending and uncontrolled debt? And that is why I have made it clear that the Republican Party platform in its entirety is where I stand. That is where I put my shoulder to the wheel. And if we need to change anything on the Republican Party platform, then we will do it in the right venue. Thank you.
Okay, as far as the Republican platform goes, yes, I agree with this. When I first became involved with the party, the platform had just been whittled down from about 30 pages down to what it is today. Those are, as was just previously said, timeless issues that go along with our Constitution and the freedoms and liberties that we as Americans hold. Where we run into some troubles too is with the resolutions. Resolutions are brought, but you all here are a good group of examples of what needs to go on. Precinct people are the very, very, very grassroots of the Republican Party and of the party that elects our president. It begins here. And so those are also, as a precinct person for about 14 years, and chairman twice.
We all received a questionnaire, and the same question, we submitted that back to the chairman of the Fremont County Party, and I think when I done the calculation, when I finished mine, I was at 82.5 or something percent that I supported in the platform. I think there's parts of the platform that conflict with each other, and I struggle with that. One of the basic constitutional rights we have is religious liberty, and to protect that is very, very important. Then we claim to obey the laws of the state. But then we come back in and we say, but marriage is only between a man and a woman. Well, what if a religion feels that that's differently? Then are they in violation of the Republican platform? Or if somebody says that's illegal, when it's been determined and a law has been passed by Congress that it's not illegal, so they're complying with the law, I think that we've got to, thank you.
Thank you. All right, there has been, this is the lightning round, so you'll only have 10 seconds. There won't be a yellow card, just the red card will pop up. So these questions can be answered quickly. Question number 1. There has been a lot of discussion recently about saving our democracy. Is the United States a republic or a democracy?
We are a republic, we are a constitutional republic, and a democratic republic because we democratically elect our representatives, which makes us a republic.
Yeah, that's my understanding as well, is we're a representative republic. We represent our elected representatives, and they represent the people in the government.
We are a republic, and where the danger is today is that when we call ourselves a democracy, we enable the majority to rule instead of the rule of law.
We're a republic.
Next question. This will go first to Mr. Jones.
We missed
Oh, I'm sorry, Jeff.
constitutional republic.
Sorry. I'm so excited about this next question. Got ahead of myself. Okay, this is for Mr. Jones. Are you in favor of or opposed to data centers?
Data centers are going to come in saying they're going to make their own power. They're going to bring outsourced materials. They're going to bring their own labor. They're not going to bring any economic production to the state of Wyoming. They're going to taint our water. They're going to raise our power costs, and they're not for Wyoming.
Hey, everything that he said is true, but the thing is that we also believe in private property, so I believe it needs to be a county planning, and that needs to be very, very looked at.
I support data centers. I think it's a real economic opportunity for the state, and people in making the decision based on emotion is really problematic right now.
There's a big controversy with data centers. I believe we need a year to look at this and not fast track it. I don't, myself personally, I don't agree with it.
Time.
I am opposed to data centers. They seem like a big leech on the people of Wyoming and the resources of Wyoming.
All right, next question for Mrs. Ottman. There has been a lot of talk about local control. Do you think local control trumps the Bill of Rights or state law? Or state law?
One or the other?
Either one. Does local control trump the Bill of Rights or state law? Not either or, but.
No.
So the Bill of Rights trumps all, and local control gets their authority from the state. So then state would trump that.
Does not trump Bill of Rights.
Local control does not trump the Bill of Rights or state control. State law.
Absolutely not. Local government does not trump the Bill of Rights. One place I see them violating people's private property rights is with the police powers and general welfare clauses. They come in and they tell people what they can and can't do on the private property rights with immense latitude.
Time.
That needs to change.
Okay, this is first for Mr. Larson. Do you believe that using taxpayer dollars to give to others to start businesses for economic development is the proper role of government?
Could you say that one more time?
Do you believe that using taxpayer dollars to give to others to start businesses for economic development is the proper role of government?
At times.
Mr. Martin?
I 100% disagree with that. When I did it, and I owned and operated 2 businesses, it's called a loan, and pay it back.
Could you read that again?
Yeah. You believe that using taxpayer dollars to give to others to start businesses for economic development is the proper role of government?
No, it is not. Let people donate or invest in businesses that they would like to see in their community.
Absolutely not. There's private funding for businesses. If we're gonna be giving away free taxpayer dollars, let's all line up in the line. Amen.
No, I do not. And we have taken, through the appropriations team, we have looked at the Wyoming Business Council thoroughly, and that investigation continues. They are revamping.
Time. Okay, this is for you, Mr. Martin. Do you feel the state is overdosing on property tax relief?
Oh yeah, I mean, as far as the monies they're collecting, they are overdosing on property. Oh, no. Overdosing on property tax?
Tax relief.
No, they're not. The 50% tax initiative put out by VCR started the conversation, and we need to keep it going on.
No, they are not. We should be abolishing the property tax. Again, if you own your property, you should own your property.
There you go. No, we are not. Private property ownership is a fundamental cornerstone of this state and of this nation. And if we have to pay rent to the government in order to have property, do we have private property rights and private property ownership? I'd say no.
No. As we look at the property tax and all of the exemptions, we see that there's problems with people being overtaxed or people that need things. I believe it needs to go away. What I've read is that if we had 6% sales.
Lightning round, 10 seconds. You're up.
Okay. Thank you. So I don't think the verdict's in on that yet. I think we've tried to provide property tax relief, and I think it needs a little bit of time for that. So no, I don't think we're ODing on it, but I think that the verdict's in. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Wilson, do you feel the state is, no, I'm sorry, that's the last week this year. Okay, starting over. Last question. Should the state savings account have a limit?
Yes, I think the state has a ridiculous amount in their savings account right now, and they're wanting more and more from the citizens. So they have 40 billion sitting in savings.
Absolutely. What would that money do in your S&P 500 index over that same time? How would that help your family? Same thing if you set your Social Security.
I agree with their concerns, but I would say anytime it seems to me as we put a cap on anything, it creates other problems because they know how to get around it. So what I would say is we need to look at the proper role of government, we need to do the audits, and we need to do a better job. And also I would say citizens need to look at, I'm getting extra time. Citizens need to look at what they expect out of their government, because that's what gets paid.
I marvel that somehow savings is not a conservative value. Why would you put a cap on savings? Doesn't make any sense. Prevents us from having an income tax, provides 30% of our general fund revenue.
That depends on if you're overtaxing to get that.
All right. That's the list of questions. Now we're going to have some questions from the audience.
Okay, so folks, this is your time now to ask questions. So we're gonna do it the same way that we've just done. Everyone's gonna answer the same question. So those who are asking questions, if we can ask you to please be concise. and make it a question and not a statement, please. So, where did we start up? Would Carlin, or would you be next to start? Okay, I'm trying to get this money.
So,
Okay,
question? So will we all answer it?
yes, everyone's gonna answer the same question. Okay, so, who has questions
Sarah,
for our,
what's the time, like 2 minutes?
same
One.
time frame, 1 minute, yeah. We're gonna keep it succinct. Yes, sir.
So in reference to the Supreme Court ruling, this is primarily directed to the two candidates that are currently in office.
As of the Supreme Court ruling on the Voter Rights Act, Section 2, what have you done since that ruling to inform the governor that the state of Wyoming is in violation of the U.S. Constitution? Thank you.
For those who know, I guess, Mr. Jones, we'll start with you.
Well, I'm not exactly sure how to answer that question, but anytime that the state government is in violation of the Constitution, that is a serious problem. The Constitution is the supreme law of the land. And I don't have enough context to make a statement as to whether or not the accusation is accurate. I have no reason to believe that it is not, but I'd have to look further into the issue.
Okay, in answer to that, I have done a lot about that. I serve on the tribal committee, and so therefore I have listened to this fellow talk quite a few times. I have also talked to the governor's office, and I have talked with both tribes, the branding inspectors, the state departments, and there's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes. Not everything's at a committee meeting. So to say nothing's being done is not true. What I will say is that that conversation needs to go because there's a lot more to it than what we see. It's a lot more than just Buffalo. It's about a movement in this country, the way I see it. And I have worked on that. So when people want to say nothing's being done, that's not true.
So I think the question was really pointed here, and Mitch, yes, I actually have talked to the governor on that and talked about how he feels the state ought to proceed, and then it comes back down to the county and how they ought to proceed. That conversation is going on. Also had a conversation with the governor on the Board of Equalization not wanting to certify the county assessor's information, and was really pleased as we had that conversation that he had the Attorney General file a lawsuit because the Board of Equalization doesn't have the authority to make that determination, and that had to be resolved. So had a very good conversation with him on that, and as he reached out and asked my thoughts on that.
Thank you. Do either of you two want to stab at this? It's a little specific, but if you want to say anything, go ahead.
It seems that on this topic, that we keep authority in the state keeps passing the buck. They need to really get own up. Who's the authority on this? And if it goes to the governor, accountability needs to be done wherever it needs to be done on this subject.
What he said.
I'm just interested to find out, for those who think that the property tax should be removed, what would you replace it with? And if it is the sales tax, what do you think that rate would be? Because the Conservative Tax Foundation has found that it's not 6 or 7%. It's more like 15% would be the actual number, and that has huge impacts on those who live close to the border of other states that have lower sales taxes. And then secondly, how do you think that would impact local control over finances? Because if you are beholden to the state government for all of the money, how is that going to impact schools? How is that going to impact roads when everyone's then competing for those dollars?
Great question.
Representative Ottman, I think you're up first, yes?
Okay, that's a good question, and I was just looking at, I talked to the Wyoming Property Tax Association just yesterday and was asking them this exact question, and they were the ones that kind of told me the 6%. What I will say is there is a lot to look at. What I will support and continue to support is the elimination of property taxes. I don't believe that residential property tax is the way to go. As far as our legacy industries, we see that they have done a phenomenal job with coal and gas and uranium and tritium and everything. So what I believe is that we need to continue to look at those and look at other things. If we have a business-ready community and if we have things going on here, we will have enough funds coming in here to pay our budget. We have 500,000 people, and so it should not cost billions of dollars to run this government.
That's really a fun question, and I think fundamentally, I agree with the conversation that's been going on. If you own your property, you shouldn't have to lose it because you didn't pay a tax that's collected. So then how do we get around that? Because property tax is a fundamental revenue source to provide the services back to the public schools, county government. So then this idea then of doing a sales tax, adding, and what percentage should that be to that sales tax, then that the state would dedicate that amount brought in back to the counties to replace the assessed value determined in each county. So I think that component's really important. But then what's the percentage? Our LSO, as we looked at previous bills, we was talking about 1.50 to maybe 2 pennies. When you're saying 15%, I'd really would appreciate reading that, because I like this idea, but we can't price ourselves out of competition with other states. Thank you.
So we could cut residential property tax, cut fuel tax, cut sales tax down to 3 cents, and put over $1 billion back into our economy. We gotta get back to our mining, get rid of the Green New Scam, which we subsidize. These are monies we're losing. They're not paying anything. We got data centers that aren't gonna pay anything either, and we're gonna be subsidizing them. We got 9,000 501c3s in this state. This is when I say we need a full forensic audit. I don't believe we need to backfill anything. I think we're being overtaxed and we're funding scams. That's what I believe we're doing. And we need to get into this audit. We need to find out where's the money, and we need to quit having this backfill conversation.
Again, I agree with Jeff. We need this forensic audit, find out where our money is going. We need to stop putting billions of dollars into a savings account. That's our money. Yeah. That's not government money. There's no such thing. That's our money. That's just sitting in the savings account. I think it's 40 billion now. And also, if you don't have to pay your $2,000 or $10,000 or $20,000 in property tax, what are you going to do with that money? You're probably going to spend it. You might save a little bit of it, but you're probably going to spend it. It's going to go back into the economy. More taxes.
I think everything comes down to overspending. We can't really have a true discussion about property tax removal until we address the spending problem that we have in this state. I'll refer you back to the night watchman. The thing is property tax from a principal perspective should not exist. Now, as far as how we fill the gap, like I said, spending. If we reduce our spending and become relentlessly efficient in every aspect of government, that's the only way that we're going to be able to do the property tax reforms that need to occur in order to respect people's private property.
Thank you. There's one question here, yes.
Thank you. While I was in high school, one of the teachers was arrested, tried, convicted, and served a sentence for raping the boys in his charge. In our libraries, we have books that describe this exact same action, from a coach to their students. And they're very great detail in these books. They're placed in the young adult section, which the ALA describes as being 12 to 18-year-olds. Do you believe that such books are appropriate for this age group? What do you intend to do to assure these books are properly placed in age-appropriate sections? And how will you work to assure the Wyoming State Library will specifically assure those aren't available online?
I think Mr. Larson, right, Representative Larson.
So I thought we had a good bill that came, it's House Bill 1, or House Bill 10, I believe, might have been a 10. But I thought that really laid out some good guidelines on controlling and making sure in public libraries that those types of books, because I think parents do have a right to be concerned about those types of things in a public library. And I just don't think it's that hard to be able to control and say, if you want them available, they're in a section that only age-appropriate individuals have access to that. And so I would support and do support a similar bill if it came up this time. I think it's reasonable to expect that type of structure.
I believe we should get all that material out of the library. Is that what our libraries are for? You know, you want a porn book, go buy one, if you're of age. But if our libraries are supporting that kind of activity, I say defund them.
There's no place for that material in any of our libraries. It doesn't belong in any section in a public library. We should not be funding, again, that's our money, funding perversion. And who goes and gets that stuff? So it might be our kids. And it might be the sex offender down the road. What are we attracting into our library? Who's coming into our library to look at these books and to look at porn on the computer? Is that what you want in your public library? I've looked at this decades ago, and there were FBI statistics at that time to show that the violent crime rate in a half-mile radius around a public library with unfiltered internet access was greater than the violent crime rate in a half-mile radius around an adult bookstore. Do you want this in your library? Do you want these people in your library? No.
Libraries are a place for learning and for community activity. Explicit materials and sensitive materials such as that are for the family and the home to introduce to their children if they so choose at any point that they so choose to do so. That is not the place for the public. That is the home's duty to protect their children from these types of materials. The public should not be putting that on the shelf and making that available to the children, because that violates the sanctity of the home. That violates the religious freedom of the home. That violates the ability for the parents to be able to protect their children from these explicit and sensitive materials that should not be viewed by anybody underage.
Okay, for 2 years I've seen this battle going on, and I will say that I am totally against it being in any public library or public school. In fact, I don't think it's good for anybody, period. And I will just say that. What people do in the privacy of their own homes, they do. But what I will also say is we know now that it is up to our county commissioners, and it's up to people to be attending those meetings, because the commissioners are the ones that pick the library boards, which are the ones that pick the library director, which is the person that rules the roost. So what I will say is you need to get on the phone and get in touch with your local authorities and have a grassroots movement and move that out and be in the libraries. Go in there. Don't just stop taking your kids in there. Get in there and make your voice heard.
Okay, I think we've got time for one more question in the back.
Fremont County will soon be voting on a 3/4 cent tax. It's supposed to fund airport, ambulance, and transit service. Is this a valid tax in your mind, and do you support it? Also, too, it's been reallocated, so ambulance service gets a certain amount more than what they should, 33%. Is that a good tax? Should we vote for it?
I think we all kind of learned our lesson from the half-cent sales tax. None of that money went to our infrastructure. So I'm in the place where I just don't trust our local government right now. So I'm gonna vote no on that.
I think each of those things should have been brought separately with a certain amount of tax going to each one of them. As it stands, at least the last I saw, they would be able to move that money around however they saw fit. So they might say that the ambulance service is getting this much, and the WRTA is getting this much, and the airport's getting that much, but that could change. And you might not even know about it. So, no, I don't support it.
This is exactly how our freedoms are chipped away at, piece by piece, slowly over time, with small taxes, small expenditure increases, things that we almost don't notice, things that we can justify away, but end up passing off to our children and our grandchildren. I believe that taxes, look at our founding fathers. We went to war, we became a nation over a minuscule tea tax. And now, every time we turn around, taxes, taxes, taxes. I would vote no if it were me in that area for that taxes, but that is up to the people of that district, or that town, county area.
Thank you. I would just say bravo to each one of these people because they've done their homework. And it's correct, the last time we had a half-cent tax, it did not go where it was supposed to go. And then they said, well, let us figure out the rules. This time it's supposed to go for the ambulance, the airport, and for the ambulance service. About 6 years ago, I talked to the county commission about the ambulance service and was told that they would handle it. They had experts coming in from, I believe it was Georgia or South Carolina, and you see the position we're in. What I will say is the people that are working on this are very diligently doing it, and they believe they're doing it for the county. But what I believe is that each one of us need to figure out, we cannot have an ambulance service that provides service full-time, 100% from Du Bois to Jeffrey City, from Lander over. We just can't. It's impossible. You could not finance it. As far as WRTA, they're getting a lot of things going. They're getting a lot of community support, and I believe that's the way it should be. As far as the airport, this legislature, we've provided the capacity agreement this year, so they're not hurting, and you've noticed they've been a lot quieter. I don't tell anybody how to vote.
I'm gonna vote for it. I didn't agree with the half-cent tax that went to pay for business grants. I thought that was flawed. But it confuses me that we are very passionate about having an ambulance show up to our house. We just don't wanna pay for it. And I don't get that. If we're really independent and we're this conservative group, then we ought to pay for some of those services that we get. And the ambulance service is something that we ought to pay for. We, on the capacity air agreement that we put funding into this year, there's still a requirement that the county has to meet to match some of that we provided from the state. So I would encourage people to support this. I think it's for the good of the services. Infrastructure is what we said the Republican platform is and this money is good for. That's infrastructure.
Thank you. Okay, wasn't that fun? I think it's fun because I'm not up here.
It was fun. It was very
Once again, I just wanted to thank you all for coming tonight.
Sarah,
and
closing statements.
Oh, we're going to give these guys a minute. Did we say a minute?
Yes.
Okay, 1 minute to give you a closing statement. And Mr. Martin, we'll go with you first.
I just want to thank everybody for being here tonight, giving us an opportunity to speak our minds and answer your questions. Again, I didn't even really want to do this, but to hear the voices of Fremont County, and and I prayed about it. I really did. It just came to me one day. This is what I got to do. I got to take your voice to Cheyenne, and if you vote for me, I will do that. No more business as usual. I'll be competitive for you, and I won't vote to raise your taxes, and I won't vote to raise your energy costs, and I'll do everything that I can to make Wyoming a better place. Thank you.
Thank you for coming tonight and listening to all of us. I'm kind of the same as Jeff. I really had no plans on doing this. It wasn't my 5-year plan, my 10-year plan, but I saw a need, and so I prayed about it as well for quite a while, and here we are. And I'm not a politician, but I'm a fighter, and I would like the opportunity to fight for you and to restore Wyoming's values, to keep us from going the way of Colorado. Louder?
Amen.
There you go. Okay? And I would like to take your voice to Cheyenne as well.
If you haven't noticed a pattern here, I'm going to go a little rogue here on my closing statement. I'm going to talk about the power of God as I see it. I see the power of God most clearly in the beautifully simple yet infinitely complex His will over water. As effortlessly as we breathe, He carries water from the lowest lows to the highest peaks of this great earth, in quantities so vast that we can't even comprehend the energy and effort that it would take to do that. And then He leaves it there to fall effortlessly by His power down the rivers and the creeks, into the lakes and the oceans, supporting every single form of life along the way. As effortlessly as we breathe, God transformed this barren rock into a paradise. And now it is our time to stand strong with our belief in God and the timeless principles of the Republican Party to defend this paradise that He created. Thank you.
I wanted to say thank you, Sarah, and Campaign for Liberty for doing this tonight, because it is important and so hard. I've had people calling saying, how do I find out about these things? It's just groups like this that do it, because we don't have that. What I will say is, when I went into the legislature at the very beginning, it was life, liberty, and private property. And just as these candidates here are so sincere in their beliefs, it's important, and it's important that you participate locally. But what I'll also say, as I've been in there 6 years and I'm going on my 4th term, is that being part of the agriculture committee, being part of the labor, health, and social services, being part of the vulnerable adults and the tribal committee, and all of those things, there's a lot of players in the state. We've got 23 different counties. We've got needs in every one, and you hear the voices so loudly. So as your representative, I need to hear from you. Don't be complacent, and don't think that everybody just knows everything. This is the most important time, I believe, in our lives as far as elections coming up. Please tell everybody to vote, because it's not just Pepper's the only one running, so we don't need to vote. Yes, you do, because you need to show what you believe. Do you agree with what I'm doing, or do you not? And that's going to be what it shows. So please do that.
So I've served now 14 years, and I think of the things that I've seen and things that I've been able to participate in, building the Life Resource Center at the State Hospital, putting a new veterans home in Buffalo, are really fun things to say you helped with. The most satisfying thing is when a member of your community or a member of anybody in Wyoming calls you and says, I have this problem navigating the bureaucracy of the state, and to help them get the answer from the agency and try to find a resolution for their need. That is really satisfying. I think the biggest challenge we have in this election cycle is to avoid being critical of each other. Mr. Martin and I won't agree on anything. He's been successful, he's a good guy, and we need to acknowledge that in everything that we do. St. Pepper and I don't always agree. Becky and I don't always agree.
Okay, you can clap. Okay, so once again, I'm gonna thank you for coming and these guys for doing this. So feel free to come up and visit with these guys if you have more questions. Some of them have some signs in the back. So if you feel like that some values here align with your values, definitely get in touch with them, ask them more questions, support them, because it's a long road and it's not one that's meant to be done by themselves. So this was filmed live Facebook. It's on our Facebook page. Our previous one from a couple of weeks ago has had about 1,000 views. So you guys can share that to your campaign pages if you like, and just spread the word on what's been going on. Thank you all.